This is Small Business Big World, our weekly podcast prepared by the team at Paper Trails. Owning and running a small business is hard. Each week, we'll dive into the challenges, headaches, trends, fun, and excitement of running a small business. After all, small businesses are the heartbeat of America, and our team is here to keep them beating. Hello and welcome to Small Business Big World, our weekly podcast talking about all things small business. Today, my guest is Laura Dolce, the director of the Kennebunk Port Arundel Chamber of Commerce, and we are going to talk about public relations for small business.
We are.
Thank you for joining me.
I'm happy to be here.
Before we get going, don't forget, like, follow, share, rate, review. Anywhere you listen to podcasts, we're there. If you have any questions for us or for Laura or any of our guests, feel free to email us podcast@papertrails.com, and we will get in touch with you. All right, PR. I feel like this is a foreign topic for a lot of small business people, right? I think we're not very good at tooting our own horn.
No, not at all.
So what do you have to do to be newsworthy? What types of things in a small business can small business owners talk about to the press?
I think, first of all, there's a lot that goes on in businesses that people don't even think of as newsworthy. I think, every time there's a promotion, throw it in the paper, put a headshot out there. I think if you're changing something up, adding a product line, adding a new service, you hit an anniversary, whether it's 1 year or 21 years or whatever. I think a lot of times the press themselves nowadays are really, really lean. And so they're delighted to get content from somewhere other than having to send a reporter out. They're delighted to get photos and put that stuff in. And business reporting especially, a lot of papers just don't have business reporters anymore.
So particularly speaking to, the lack of workforce in that reporting, field, there's, we know the newsrooms are smaller than they ever have been, right?
Oh, God.
What catches a reporter's attention, I guess? What's going to really move the needle and say, oh, gosh, we're going to do something with that?
I think something unusual. I do think something like an anniversary. They're not going to come out and do a story if you have a promotion. They might have a, story if you have a new president or a new CEO. But, if you've got something new, something cool, you've got a big anniversary, you can contact the press directly. A lot of times, do a good press release. You send that press release out, and chances are they're either going to put it in the way it is, or they're going to call you because you've taken the time to kind of write up what's interesting about it.
So what should be in that press release, right? What should go in there? What should you send them? How should you send it?
First of all, I would always send it as a Word attachment. Having been
not a PDF.
Having been on the other side, I can assure you that if you send a PDF, it's going to take so much longer to get that in the paper because someone has to type it in. So for God's sake, send it. Even if you send it in the body of the email, send it in a way that people can cut and paste it because no one has time for that.
Right.
Always send a photo. Photos are terrific, both to get the reader's attention, but also to get an editor's attention because, again, they're looking to build a page around photos, and you want to get that in there. So contact name, phone number, email, always important because, if you send that out into the world, but people have follow-up questions or they think, wow, that's a great story, sometimes, they don't want to have to search for you or figure out who sent it to them. Put a headline that grabs people's attention at the top. And then, you don't have to get super complicated. There's a lot of great templates online that you can do a press release. Our chamber will do it with you or for you. So, that's always an option if you're part of a professional organization.
Yeah. What is that? What is a press release? What's the format to be? You got your quick headline, right? Grab the attention.
Yep.
Write about, whatever you're talking about. Then is it, put kind of an about the business just in general? And then
I like to put an about the business at the bottom if I can. Like a full bio of the business I put at the bottom. But you might say, your headline is ABC company, adds, I don't know, brand new line of, three-headed monkey toys. And then you've got kind of the town and then, the announcement like today, president of ABC company announced that they're, adding these brilliant new lines of three-headed monkey toys in time for the holidays. And then you'll have a quote, from Joe Blow, and it'll say, we're so delighted to be, adding these three-headed monkey toys, blah, 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 said Joe Blow, CEO of ABC Company.
I think the Wall Street Journal is going to pick this one up.
Exactly. If you see this on Christmas lists, you'll know why. So, yeah. And then
Hasbro's coming after the three-headed monkeys.
And then after that, a little bit more about the company. ABC Company has been in business for 30 years, is known for its two-headed snake toy, and, blah, blah, blah. Employees, 300 people, whatever. I think some of that important information that you'd want to see in the paper.
How do you what about, I guess, how do you show your expertise and offer expertise to reporters? Like if you're, I don't know, let's say a reporter's looking to write a story about, flooding, right? We had a flooding thing, right? And they reached out to you as the chamber director and said, hey, who's an expert in this, right? And you said, hey, here's 3 insurance agents and here's a, cleaning company or whatever, right? And they reached out to them. How do you put yourself kind of on that resource list? How do you get in touch with, how do you stay connected with these reporters when they're looking to write a story about something that you might be an expert on? And then that's truly a news story and not necessarily a rah, all about me story.
Absolutely. I mean, every reporter has a source, and I find like when we get new reporters, which we do frequently here, I reach out, I tell them, I give them my cell, I tell them like, hey, if you need anything or you're looking for business ideas or whatever, here's how you contact me. I think you can absolutely do the same. I mean, as a journalist, especially with the storms and things like that, I'd be delighted if 3 companies sent me a little email and said, hey, by the way, we're experts. We cleaned up after, 5 hurricanes or whatever. And I think that's,
so don't be afraid to reach out either. That's, be a little proactive.
I do. I think, a lot of people are putting together a virtual Rolodex and they might not use you this time, but next time something happens, they're going to say, oh yeah, I've got so-and-so's number. I'm going to give them a call on that.
It's interesting. I never thought about being more so proactive, I guess, in terms of those news type stories and how you manage that. So that's a good one. Who do you send these things out to, right? I mean, most locations have a local paper, even if it's just a weekly or something. We have our regionals and some business magazines. And do you just plaster it out there? Do you just say, hey, these are the 10 that I'm always going to send to? Or what, is there a strategy around that, do you think, for press releases or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, we have a media list that we've created, and we know that, here's especially our local people. So for a general press release, we do have kind of a list of, like, I'm not going to send that to broadcast unless it's something really big or really cool. Like if it's in a big event, then I'll send that to broadcast. But other than that, if it's things like a promotion or whatever. But if you've got your 3-headed monkey launch and it's in time for the holidays, I would send that to broadcast. I would do a little homework and figure out where that's going to go and which is the right department. I always look for the news department. I always look for an editor if I can, a producer even. Sometimes the emails that some of these media organizations give you, like these info emails, they could go to the ad department. You don't know where they're going. There's probably some underpaid secretary dealing with all those. So you want to get it in the right hands right from the beginning. Local papers, it's often either the local editor or the local reporter who every week is struggling to come up with something. So, you could send it to them or both, But if it's something really cool though, and something super visual, then I would absolutely reach out to the radio or TV stations and, get some additional stuff on top of that. We do a lot of print for things like business because you don't get quite as much business stuff on TV, I think, but...
So what about things, I know going back to, being a little more proactive, there's things like Help a Reporter Out, right? That's one of the services out there that you can subscribe to that reporters go out and say, hey, I'm looking for someone that knows about 3-headed monkey toys, right?
Yeah, I mean, I have been a reporter using Harrow. I mean, it's definitely valuable. I still think that unless you're looking to put together kind of a bigger, broader piece, maybe on like a regional or national level, your local reporters might not be using that as much. I think people at bigger organizations know about that. Probably not your local person. So that's why being proactive
right,
is
and
really
being connected is important, right? That's interesting. So you talked about the chamber. What is the chamber? You guys at the chamber obviously are really well versed in this as formal journalists. So how are you helping members with this type of stuff?
I mean, a lot of what we do, especially is with new businesses, they've just come to an area. They really want to tell you, kind of, here's what we just opened. We do this. We're going to have a ribbon cutting, and obviously we take photos of that. But we just had a small mammal vet open, and they really wanted to do a press release. And sometimes I'll get sort of the very basic, but they sent me some really cool material about how they decided to be small mammal vets because they had a bunny in college, and this bunny inspired and it was such a cool, so you really got to put together a really cool press release from that. So sometimes those cool anecdotes or something just that sets you apart is really fun. We always ask them to kind of just give us the basics, tell us when you're opening, where you were before, what exactly services you're going to offer, kind of straightforward stuff that you'd want to see in there. So if you want readers to know, if you want consumers to know, and you're sending it to the media, put everything in there you want them to know. You can't guarantee everything gets in, but on the chance it is, put everything in there you want them to know.
Do you send one photo? Do you send a couple of photos? What's the standard? And
I always send one. I try not to do more than a page or so for a press release because, again, no one has time to go through 3-4 pages. If you've got some really cool photos, like the vet, for example, say it's like, the two of you partners standing in front of your business, that's great. But if you have a really cool bunny shot, because,
An
it's
action
their specialty, or a shot of a bunny having surgery or something, yeah, I think, that's always a little more interesting.
Right, want to catch attention, just like any type of marketing. You
Yeah.
want to differentiate and catch that attention. So what other, one of the things that I think we're all bad at is kind of tooting our own horn. And, sometimes I don't even think about it, right? I was talking to our marketing director today, and, we're currently trying to rank as one of the best employers in the state, right? There's a big, survey that's going out, and today they went out. So we're working on that, and I'm not unduly influencing my employees. Don't worry, HR Association. I know that's a big rule. We're not doing that. But I have this thing in my mind that MainBiz only features the people that are on this list. Like, I feel like we've tried to submit stuff to certain publications, and I just feel like we don't have the credibility. So we're trying to, this is one of the way we're trying to build credibility. And, and that's kind of an outside the box kind of PR type thing. Just saying, hey, listen, if you're getting recognized by outside organizations,
Absolutely.
One of the things that we always look for, are there industry awards that we can nominate ourselves for, or, things that we should be applying for that are an opportunity, again, because those are press releases, right? Those are ways to get in front of other folks. So, and it builds credibility.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there are a lot of companies that are really good at doing that. I just, wrote up something for one of those for one of our member companies this week. And I think people shouldn't be afraid to ask. Ask your number one client, ask someone that you work with in the community, ask someone you serve on a board with, ask your chamber, like, hey, could you write a letter of recommendation? Could you kind of put this out there? Could you give me a quote for this because we're applying for XYZ awards?
Sure.
I do think that the awards are nice to have. I mean, it's great to have them cluttering up your office, but it does give you a different level of credibility. And they generally have their own PR built into them, which, again, it's kind of a double bonus.
Right. Well, again, because those types of things, when they say, hey, we're announcing the awards, guess who won the award, right? You want to be on that list. So that's just another different way to kind of promote yourself that I don't think a lot of people think about. That we're trying, again, I'm not good about it either. You're just talking to John today. I'm like, I'm really bad at tooting my own horn. But we got to think about that if we want to continue to, kind of grow and so forth.
I think you should, you can look at some of the companies that do it well. Like the one I talked to this week, they do it well. They're in hospitality. They've won many, many awards individually and as a company, and they look for those opportunities all the time. Right. So you could be, I don't know.
But there's,
the payroll expert of, for the state of Maine, like,
but there's awards in every industry.
Exactly.
There's industry associations, even if you're, you become the chairman of an industry association or something, something big like that happens. We have a national association that we're members with. I think there's a lot that can be said about that. So, but yeah. So what's the one takeaway if you're going to say, hey, Mr. Small Business, you need to think about when you're thinking about PR? Basic. If you had only one thing you could do, what would it be from a PR perspective?
Oh my gosh. I guess toot your own horn. Learn to get yourself out there. Learn to put yourself out there. Even if you send 10 press releases and not, one of them gets picked up, you haven't wasted anything but maybe a few minutes for each, and you're out there. And if it turns into a bigger story, that's kind of invaluable, and it's free PR.
Is it all news or all publicity is good publicity?
I don't believe that.
Okay,
No.
I don't think so either. I was just gut checking that.
Nowadays, social media, no, I don't think so. Yeah. No, and I think that's a big part of PR people don't think about, like crisis management. That's a whole other podcast.
But really quick, I think, we've been there where there have been businesses that have been caught in some sort of controversy, right?
Absolutely.
And the paper's reaching out to them. You're not reaching out to them, right?
Yep.
They're reaching out to you. And I guess my advice would be don't ignore that, right?
Never ignore it. You want to control the narrative.
Right.
You want to tell them what you want them to know. You don't want them to hear it from 10 people who have a completely different, skewed, perhaps, view of what happened. Right. You want them to get the truth. And even if it's bad, talk. You can work with someone else on a statement, even if it's just a statement you send, but don't ever be silent, because when you're silent, people fill in the blanks.
Right. Well, you have certainly helped some business in the community with that, with controversies and things. So that's been, and you're right. I think once you make that statement, you've found, even if it's just posting it to your Facebook page or whatever.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. People actually are hearing your side of the story, and 99% of the comments on the one I'm thinking of were very positive toward the business, right? That, gosh, we understand that there was this crazy person that caused a stink.
Yep.
And, we still love you, right? Maybe you screwed up, maybe you didn't, okay. If you did, we forgive you. And that's real life, right? And we move on. I mean, it's
the same for Google reviews, Yelp reviews. I mean, I'm always impressed with the businesses that took the time to say, yep, you're right, we fell short here, and here's what we're doing. And we took it to our management team, and boy, we've made changes. Great. Yeah, people respect that, and they're willing to give you another shot rather than the people who just ignore it or fight with people, even worse.
Those are the most entertaining. What do you mean?
Yeah, for the rest of us to read.
Right. Well, good. Well, that's kind of a quick PR 101. I think the good, the bad, and hopefully not the ugly for most businesses. But if that does happen, find a crisis manager, communications person, right?
Exactly.
To help you manage that. Hopefully it's not too bad. But well, good. Well, thanks, Laura. How do folks get in touch with you if they want to chat with you further about this?
Director at GoKennebunks with an S at the end.com.
Perfect. So reach out to Laura if you have any questions. Well, all right. Don't forget, like, follow, share, rate, review. We are everywhere online, all the socials, all the podcast channels, and we will see you next week. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Small Business, Big World. This podcast is a production of Paper Trails. We are a payroll and HR company based in Kennebunk, Maine, and we serve small and mid-sized businesses across New England and the country. If you found this podcast helpful, don't forget to follow us at Paper Trails Payroll across all social media platforms, and check us out at papertrails.com for more information. As a reminder, the views, opinions, and thoughts expressed are the hosts and guests alone. The material presented in this podcast is for general information purposes only and should not be considered legal or financial advice. By inviting this guest to our podcast, Paper Trails does not imply endorsement of or opposition to any specific individual, organization, product, or service.